Industry Day at the Range, this week on Mail Call Mondays. Mail Call Mondays is brought to you by Modular Driven Technologies. If you need a chassis system for your precision rifle, check out mdttac.com. This is John McQuay with 8541 Tactical, and as you can see, we are not in our regular studio today. We are actually at the Holiday Inn in Henderson, Nevada. Today was the first day of the SHOT Show week. This is actually Monday, and this is Industry Day at the Range, held at the Boulder Rifle and Pistol Club here in Boulder City, Nevada. So we do make our way out to Industry Day at the Range every year, and every year we brave the desert winds and the sun and sometimes the cool breezes. It was fairly chilly today, and we kind of walk the line and see what is the latest and the greatest and what catches our eye. And I won't go through the entire lineup that was out there because there are just tons of products. Some of you guys wouldn't be interested at all. I'm sure I probably missed some that you would be interested in, but this is just the stuff that we ran down. And first I will talk about Glock. I am a bit of a Glock fan, although I wouldn't consider myself a Glock fanboy. In this instance, the two products that I really wanted to go check out was the Glock 43X and the Glock 48. And I tell you, I'm not a Glock fanboy because I was actually initially very critical of these products. I really don't see how they fit in the overall Glock lineup. I really wanted to put hands on and put some rounds down range with them before I came to a solid conclusion. And I'm kind of just right about to that point where I have a solid opinion on them. Now, I own quite a few different Glocks from 17s, 19s, 21s, 41s, all the way down to 26s, and I own a 43 and a 42. So I've got a wide variety of them out there. So when I look at these two, I look at them and go, what do they offer that would actually make me want to pick one up? The 43X interests me because my 43, pretty much anytime I carry it, anytime I shoot it, I have a magazine with a finger extension on it. I just really don't like my pinky fingers hanging off the bottom of the handgun. And when you are running short magazines with extensions on them, it makes your reload a whole lot slower, and you have to be careful that you don't pinch gloves or pinch hands in the mag well when you slam that mag home. You also just have to make sure that you get it fully seated. And in some situations, not necessarily with the 43, magazine extensions can reduce the reliability of the handgun. So since I always carry with an extension on, being able to have the larger grip, have a better grip on the handgun, and have 10 rounds internal to the handgun without having to have an extension was kind of something that interests me quite a bit. But I actually wanted to shoot it and see if there was a real benefit or if that was just a perceived benefit. So I got out and got a chance to run that, and the really important thing was to run the 43X and run the 48 side by side, because the 48 is the exact same frame as the 43X. So you have the exact same grip, same length dust cover. In fact, my understanding is the two are actually interchangeable between the two handguns. So you just have a longer barrel and a longer slide with the 48 versus the 43 or 43X. So shooting the 43X and the 48 side by side, I really couldn't notice much of a difference at all. Now granted, we're shooting ball ammo, we're not shooting defensive plus P ammo or hollow point ammo or any of the hotter ammunition that you would generally carry for defense, but just shooting ball ammo, I couldn't really tell the difference between the two, and I went back and forth between the two on the table pretty quickly. Now, of course, with the 48, you have a longer slide, so you have a longer sight radius. So if you are relying on those iron sights at anything more than across the room distance, that will give you a little bit more accuracy. However, I really don't know if that reduction in concealability, because the 43 is a very, very comfortable handgun to carry appendix inside the waistband. I don't know if that extra length is really worth it. Now, the thing that I didn't realize until I actually set them on top of each other is the 48 is dimensionally very, very similar to a Glock 19. It's basically if you take a Glock 19 and you just slim it down, just squish it, and then you have the same dimensions of the Glock 48. So it is a single stack Glock 19 for all intents and purposes. Now, for me, that pretty much answers if I want a 48 or not, because I have absolutely no problems concealing the thickness of the Glock 19. So why would I want to shrink that thing down, lose quite a few rounds, go from a 15-round magazine to a 10-round magazine, lose the girth of the grip, which does help the controllability with the 19, and lose my ease of mounting optics that I have on the 19 MOS platforms or the 19s that I have cut for an RMR. So for me, I'm not interested in the 48 at all at this point. It makes it more difficult to mount a tack light to the gun, makes it more difficult to mount optics to the gun, and all you're saving is a little bit of thickness in the overall platform, which really the length of the slide and barrel or the length of the grip are the two dimensions that really hinder concealability, not the overall thickness of the handgun. Now, the 43X, I really am interested in the 43X. I think it may actually cause me to consider giving up my 43 and purchasing a 43X. I may send it off to Danger Close and have them do one of their full packages on it and end up putting a tack light on it and putting something like a Shield RMS Compact optic on the thing, or just leave it with iron sights and have a really nice compact handgun that I can get a full grip on. So that's kind of where I'm standing right now on the 43X and the Glock 48, but I really want to hear your opinions, so please drop them in the comments section down below and tell me what you think looking at them. Have you been able to shoot one yet? They're trickling out into the wild right now. I know the distributor that I go through doesn't have any in stock yet, but they should very quickly, and again, I'm probably going to pick up a 43X. Now, the next thing on my list was the Walther Q5 steel, and I know we're covering a lot of handguns, but we will get to the long gun stuff here shortly. The Walther Q5 steel interested me because it is a competition-oriented handgun. I do shoot quite a bit of handgun competition, and this is basically a steel version of Walther's polymer striker-fired handguns. So I got a chance to shoot it, but unfortunately they were only giving us 5 rounds in the magazine. You cannot get an idea of how a handgun feels, what the recoil cycle feels like with just 5 rounds. I mean, I barely got the gun up and driven on target and got an idea of where it was pointing before my magazine was empty. Now, they allowed me to shoot the optics equipped version that had a loophole delta point on it. Then I also shot the iron sight version, and I shot the polymer version kind of back to back to see how I felt about it. Now, I do like the fact that Q5 actually has a button magazine release on it. So it doesn't use the Walther lever magazine release, which for me, it's a whole lot easier for me to hit the button than the levers. I had to over-rotate the gun to hit the levers on the handgun that was so equipped. So I much prefer the fact that they put a button mag release on it. It's a very attractive handgun. I like all the lightning cuts that they did in the slide. It feels good in the hand. The grip is nicely shaped. It does come equipped in various different flavors. The one that I shot had a magwell on it, so it is ready to go in some of the higher divisions for handgun competition. And overall, I really liked it. Now, am I planning on picking one up? That price point puts it in tough competition with some other guns that are out there. So I really don't know if it's going to be something for me, but I really do look forward to shooting it with a little bit more than 5 rounds in the magazine and try to get a better opinion. So we'll see how that goes going forward in 2019. Next, I want to talk about Kadex Defense, and they had two of their handguns. Two of their rifles. They had the CDX R7 in 6.5 Creedmoor, and this was the short-action version. I believe they call it the Sheepdog. And they have revamped the chassis system on the CDX R7, and it was a very comfortable rifle to shoot. The action was very smooth on it, had no problems hitting some of the longer targets out there, but of course that doesn't give us a true testament of accuracy on it. The trigger on the rifle felt really good, and basically this rifle, the CDX R7, has everything that a competition shooter would want in it. Really nice trigger. They have Arca rail attachments for the fore-end now, so you can drop an Arca rail on it. It has fully adjustable comb, length of pole, all that fun stuff. So the CDX R7 may be a good option for a guy that wants something that's a little bit different for shooting competition. Now, of course, we go over to the other side, and they did have the big guns out there. They had the CDX 33 Patriot Light, which was a 338 Lapua Magnum in the more classic Kadex-looking chassis. So it had the full tubular fore-end chassis. It is their light chassis. Light is really it's a comparative term here. It's not light compared to the CDX R7, obviously, but it is light compared to their heavier available chassis systems. Now, this was equipped with Kadex's suppressor, which is a very large suppressor. It has less recoil reduction than you would experience with, for instance, a brake. So shooting it, I did lose track of the far targets. Occasionally the rifle would recoil off the target a bit. I had to back the scope out just a little bit to be able to spot my shots. But it was a nice smooth action. I was able to get impacts at the 900 plus yard target, and overall it was really a great time. It was a fun rifle to shoot. But it is a very specialized rifle, and it is a higher priced rifle. So it was nice that Kadex brought their stuff out there, but we'll see if you see more Kadex stuff later on in the year. I don't know if we're going to really exert resources to review the Kadex rifles, but if that's something you guys really want to see, again, please leave comments down below. We did get a chance to go by OSS booth and check out their Helix suppressors. Now, Helix suppressors were on quite a few of the different long guns that we shot, especially when we got over to the Howa booth. They had some of the Helix suppressors on their guns. They were really fun to shoot, but what I really wanted to see was how well the 5.56 K length, or the shorter length suppressors, did on a gas-operated rifle, because really the big thing with the OSS suppressors is the internal design is intended to reduce back pressure so you get less of that gas in your face. They did have one of their standard length 5.56 versions on a short-barreled AR. I was able to put about 10-12 rounds through it as fast as I could pull the trigger. And thankfully my eyes were not tearing up. So they're doing a fairly good job of making a compact suppressor that does not blow a lot of gas back in your face. They do have a really unique design with the way their baffles are. It's not a standard, I don't want to call them flat baffle, but it's not like a standard K baffle. It is more of, if you picture the inside of a jet turbine, that is kind of what the inside of an OSS suppressor looks like. So it's a really novel design, and I always take the time to go out and shoot OSS suppressors when I can find them. Now, the OSS suppressors that were on bolt guns, obviously the back pressure really isn't the biggest consideration for that design, because bolt guns, even when you're shooting them as fast as you can run the bolt, you generally do not get a blast of gas back in the face if it's a properly designed standard suppressor. The unfortunate thing about shooting suppressors anytime you are out in a live fire event like this, where you have suppressed and non-suppressed weapons on the line, is you can't take your ears off and actually shoot it and really get an impression of the tone and of the decibel level on the suppressor. And make no mistake, the tone of the suppressor, where that pitch is, has a lot to do with your impression of how quiet it is or how much you personally enjoy the suppressor. I'm hoping that a little bit later on the year we can get the silencer shop relationship going again and get some of the OSS suppressors in to actually test and do some return to zero tests on their QD mounts and actually see how well they work on precision bolt guns. So like everything, let me know how you guys feel about that down below. We made our way to the Geissele booth, and Geissele had a couple of different things on display. They had their hard use rifles. They've got a new rifle out, AR, that is designed for patrol use, for law enforcement use, but what we really wanted to see is the Super 700 trigger. They had two of them out there. Now, we shot the Super 700 trigger last year, but what they had now are the production versions. These are what are at Brownells right now, getting ready to ship. So I wanted to get on both the two-stage and the single-stage versions and get a feel for them and see how well they worked. And I really don't have any complaints to it. Now, these were designed for the Mark 13 contract, so they are designed to meet military specifications. They are more of a duty-style trigger versus a competition-style trigger. Now, they are still end-user adjustable, and the interesting thing is Geissele is only shipping the two-stage version. The two-stage version is convertible to a single stage by the end user, so it will come with instructions, it will come with all the things you need to take that two-stage trigger out of the package, dial it down to a one-stage trigger, and install it on your rifle if you choose to do so. Now, the interesting thing there is the two-stage trigger. They said there's a combined weight on the low end of 2.5 pounds. The single stage, if you set it to single stage, you can only get it down to about 1.5 pounds. Now, this is what they're telling me. Obviously, we don't have any samples in to be able to try it yet. 1.5 pounds for a competition trigger is still a little bit on the heavy side. When you look at, for instance, the Trigger Tech Diamond, which is really one of the front-runner triggers in the PRS, it's really one of the most popular triggers out there, that trigger can be adjusted significantly below 1.5 pounds. So I don't know if the Geissele triggers are really going to take a large portion of the PRS market. Obviously, it is a Remington 700 pattern trigger, so it will be able to go on 700s and a lot of the 700 clones out there. But that limit on the bottom trigger pull weight may be a no-starter for some guys that are looking for those kind of triggers. Now, for a law enforcement type rifle, the Geissele Super 700 may be a good option, but before we put our stamp on it, we really need to be able to put it in a rifle and bang quite a few rounds through it to make sure that there are no issues, that adjustments don't move, that kind of stuff. Geissele really is the gold standard for AR triggers. I have no reservations at all in recommending a Geissele trigger in an AR for duty use, for competition use, for home defense, whatever. But the bolt action triggers are a brand new thing. So until I get some time on them, I will reserve my recommendation, and then once we get some time banging it around, we'll see how it goes. Now, whether we can get one from Geissele or we have to go out and just pick one up through retail channels, we'll see, but I definitely want to get one of those in, get it on a rifle, and get some trigger time with that, and give you guys my honest opinion of how that trigger works out. Lastly, we went over to the Howa booth. And Legacy Arms is the U.S. importer for Howa, and Legacy Arms will also be the distributor for the Oryx chassis. Now, before we came out here, the last Mail Call Mondays, we did the unboxing of the Oryx chassis, which is made by Modular Driven Technologies. And Howa had on display their Howa 1500 in the Oryx chassis, which this should be a factory offering that is coming soon. So if you are looking for a Howa 1500 based competition rifle, then the Howa Oryx offering may be a really great option. We put some rounds through it. The chassis feels really nice. worked really well. There are some great options, and we will definitely be going by their booth and talking to Matt Hornbeck a little bit more about the Howa Oryx offering and what kind of price points we're looking at and what kind of availability. So definitely stay tuned this week for that. And that's about it for our SHOT Show rundown from the industry day at the range. Obviously, throughout the week, we're going to have more videos as we go through and we talk to each one of the vendors. But what I really need from you guys is if there's a vendor at the SHOT Show that you really want us to get by, then I need you to leave it down in the comments section down below so that we can check that out. We can see if they're already on the list, and if not, consider adding them to the list. We get just pummeled with so much information going into the SHOT Show that it's difficult for us to keep track of what manufacturers are out there bringing out new products that you guys really want to see. The list that we have right now is very long. Hopefully we'll be able to get through a lot of them, but we want to know what kind of content you guys want to see. If you guys have liked this video, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you want to be notified about the videos that we're going to release throughout the rest of the week, punch that subscribe button down below and make sure you hit the little bell icon so you're notified when we release new content. And until next time, get out and shoot.